Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking. I've been doing more of these RPG reviews lately just because I'm kind of going in a different direction with my channel. I don't know how long it's going to last, but who knows. But one of the things is that right now I think we're kind of, with RPGs, we're kind of where board games were like 5 or 6 years ago, where more and more creative people are taking to crowdfunding and going up to publishers and stuff and presenting their original works, and they are getting these things published and they're getting these things noticed. And I could not be more excited right now because, like, a lot of people are saying we're in like the golden age of board games. I think we're kind of in this weird like growing, like in terms of comic book type of thing, like Silver Age type of thing, or Renaissance or whatever, who knows. But the thing is that I'm starting to get really jazzed, really excited about role-playing games again. Like I remember when I was a kid, and like I'd go to like my local Ben Franklin and I would see if there was any new like TSR modules, you know, for Gamma World or for Star Frontiers or for Top Secret or for, of course, Dungeons and Dragons. And they had them like the Ben Franklin near my house, which doesn't even exist anymore. The house still exists because my mother lives there, but the Ben Franklin doesn't exist anymore. Like the comic book rack, they used it to put the D&D modules in, and other TSR products as well. So I just remember being able to go there and being excited about that, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm excited about that, is that I've said this a few times, is that I am very much involved in OSR, old school revival or old school rules, you know, whichever one you want to call it. That's the rule set that I grew up on. I think one of the best things about 5th edition D&D is that, well, two of the best things, this is going to be a little snarky, the two best things about 5th edition is, one, it isn't 4th edition. That means, and you know what, if you love 4th edition, great, that's awesome, play it out and have a blast with it. It just wasn't my thing. And the one really good thing about 5th edition is that it's really easy to port 5th edition to a 1st edition rules set. And there's lots of different rule sets out there for 1st edition. There's Labyrinth Lore, there's Castles and Crusades, Adventure Conqueror King, and my choice for a published version is Swords and Wizardry. But they're all excellent. I invite you, maybe sometime I'll do a retrospective of all of those or something. Yeah, that would be a cool video. I should do that. But regardless to any of that, the reason you probably clicked on this video, the reason why you mentioned it, is because of the fact that I have this OSR rule set right here called, and it's going to be tough to see, it's called the Blackest of Deaths, and it's tough to see it because of the fact, there, you can probably see a little bit better there, because this is the word I used to describe it was, this is so metal. if you understand the reference or whatever. But they're on the bottom from Eric Bloat, and Eric Bloat is one of, like, I became friends with him because he reached out to have me do a video for his Deities and Demogorgons, which is excellent. Go check out my video, and that is an excellent Stranger Things-esque rule set to play games in. You know, Eric Bloat is a machine. That guy just keeps coming out with more and more cool stuff. And when I heard about this, I basically demanded. I said, "Dude, you need to give me a copy of this." And this is like one of the very few printed copies of this in existence, because he's going to take this to Kickstarter and he's going to get this published. I think he just had this print on demand made for me, which is really awesome of him. But as you can see there, it's like dire old school fantasy RPG. And I'm going to talk about this today. I'm going to talk about like the mechanisms of it and just kind of go over what's going to be involved in this book. Note that this book could change a great deal between now and when it finally gets published. I'm sure he'll hit stretch goals and things like that, and stuff will be added. I know I will plan on backing it and getting a copy of it myself. So just keep that in mind. But all right, so what does the Blackest of Deaths mean? Well, the Blackest of Deaths, the idea is that like his definition, Eric Bloat, the author, his definition of the Blackest of Deaths is when the adventuring party has gone into the dungeon and you're in the unfortunate situation where one of the adventurers is so injured or so so hurt, so poisoned, so diseased, whatever. They're so debilitated that they can no longer travel. They can no longer continue on with the party, and the party is either being chased or it's being it's so set upon by the dungeon that they're in, and they're trying to escape, that they have to leave that character behind, and that character suffers the blackest of deaths as their torch goes out and they hear the scramblings of the beasties, moving towards them, and they realize they don't have the strength to lift their sword or pick up their shield anymore. And yes, that is very grim, and that is very awful, but that is the whole point of this. This is a system where your characters are going to die. The idea is that you're able to make a character very quickly, and there's other systems that have that too, like Dungeon Crawl Classics. You can create characters fairly quickly, but this game is a little bit different in the fact that it doesn't really have advancement. When you roll up your character, and I'll talk about that in just a second here, but when you roll up your character, that's kind of as good as they're ever going to get as far as their attributes. Now, they might find some magic items, or they might find some things that might improve themselves just a little bit, but you're never going to get more hit points. Every character starts with a straight 10 hit points, and and there's items later that can increase that or lower it if it's a cursed item. But you're going to get 10 hit points, and it's going to be modified by your Constitution score, and it's going to be raised or lowered by that. If you lose all your hit, and there's no like, oh, you can get down to -10 and you're still alive. If you go to 0, you're done. You're out, you're dead, whatever. This is a system where it's like save versus poison or die, save versus magic or die. But there's technically not really saving throws either. So I'm going to have to circle back to that, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. So, alright, so the book, like I said, it could change between now and when the game is published, so just keep that in mind. But starters, it is rather fairly large type, as you can see in here, and this is like the character creation. There's the character creation table down there. This is the character creation 2 pages, right? You're probably used to possibly playing games where it's like, okay, here's your character, let's spend an hour making it. When I played this, I just basically told some people, like, hey, meet me at the local game store. We're gonna play a quick little adventure. I went and downloaded a dungeon map off of like one of the millions of resources that are out there that you can get now. Downloaded one, threw monsters into it, and just said, boom, make your characters, and just had to roll up their characters, and we were playing. And multiple people were getting slaughtered as the thing was going, and they just rolled up another character, and we came up with some reason. But the whole point is that it wasn't a situation where we needed to take, okay, everybody take a couple hours, create their character, create a backstory. You just you could definitely create a backstory, but why bother? Your backstory doesn't have to be really involved, right? You could just say, oh, I'm a dwarf who was shunned from his home for some imagined curse or something, and now I'm looking to reclaim my honor or whatever, and boom, done. Just like something classic, something tropey like that. I will say the game does kind of step away from a little bit from OSR, because like dwarf and elf aren't like classes like some of you might be familiar with in like classic D&D, and also like there's 4 races, and this could change obviously, or could be added later with more source books and whatever, or you could just create whatever class you wanted. But like dwarf, elf, human, and goblin are the 4 races that you can be. And then like the classes that you can take are not your classic classes. There's some, like barbarian is like fairly classic, but it's not like a barbarian like the old school barbarian, or I shouldn't say old school. Well, God, what was that? Was that 2nd edition or 3rd edition? Wait, was 3rd edition maybe the first barbarian? I don't know. Maybe it was. No, I think Unearthed Arcana had the barbarian, didn't it? Yeah, I remember correctly, and you could never bring him with because like he hated all spellcasters. So it was like that ridiculous character class that nobody can have in their party unless it was an all barbarian group or something like that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So there are 6 classes: the assassin, the barbarian, the monster slayer, the necromancer, the ranger, and the street rat. Of those, only 2 get spells. Obviously, the Necromancer and the Ranger are the 2 that get spells. There's no classic Cleric or whatever. The Ranger is not so much the favorite enemy type thing. The Monster Slayer is that person that has that favorite enemy, that person they want to kill. The Barbarians are the big tanks, as you can probably guess. Assassins, sneaky, gonna stab you in the back kind of person. Street Rats are more of the straightforward thieves, the ones that are going to be able to pick locks, climb walls, those sorts of things, that they're going to be, needed for, finding those traps or finding those secret doors that you find. And obviously I'm sure there'll be more classes later. The big thing about these characters is they actually start off more powerful than you're probably going to be accustomed to in your standard character creation. Like when you make your first level wizard, they're going to be pretty weak, right? They're going to have their little book of 3 spells and maybe the 1 or 2 spells they can cast and some cantrips and they're basically gonna cast their 1 spell at a combat and then try to hide usually, or maybe if they have a sling. But like a Necromancer in this, they actually, here, I'm going to read off some of the powers that Necromancers have. These are all, I should say, all the classes, here's the Barbarian. And the art is really good. It's just it's black and white art, but it's very good, line art. I do like the kind of, the bleak, or the black and white aesthetic, if you will. But no, here's the Necromancer. Here's the picture of the Necromancer. And so Necromancers are the specific order of wizardry that is obsessed with death, dead, and the undead and the undying. So you get a class bonus, you automatically get a +1 to intelligence, and that's, put a pin in that, because we're going to come back to the character creation here in just a moment, but I kind of jumped ahead a little bit. Only humans possess the dark side needed to be a Necromancer, so you have to be a human. Necromancers may only wield staves, scepters, and daggers. They are not allowed to use armor and shields, and that's going to be difficult. We'll come back to armor and shields here in a moment. Magical awareness. Necromancers can cast the detect magic spell at will by simply concentrating for a single round. If the Necromancer spends an hour or more examining magic item and makes a successful difficulty check, they can identify the specific properties and abilities of the magic item, so they automatically get identify. Commune with the recently deceased. Necromancers can commune with the recently deceased, dead 2 days or less. Some spirits are cooperative, some are not. The Necromancer cannot force the spirit to answer their questions, but often can barter to get the answers they need. On the Necromancer's turn, the life drain, the Necromancer can sacrifice 1 of their available spells to automatically drain 4 hit points of damage from a target enemy. That's pretty good power. Animate and control lesser undead. Twice per day, the Necromancer can animate or take control of lesser undead equal to their intelligence score for 1d6 rounds. At creation, Necromancer can choose either a magical staff or a magical scepter. The chosen weapon is a magic item. As such, it is indestructible, and the weapon is bound to the Necromancer, so will come to the Necromancer when called, no matter the distance. And then Necromancers are capable of casting magical spells and reading magical writings. From the spell selection, select 3 spells. Each spell can be cast 3 times per day. So that's 9 spells. And the Necromancers can learn additional spells from magic scrolls that they find, but then are restricted to only casting each of those learned spells twice per day. Notice there's no limit. There's no and you can only have 5 spells, and you can only have 4 spells. So nothing like that. So the more scrolls the Necromancers find, they're just going to gather more and more power. So right there, compare that to a first level wizard that you're probably used to, or mage or whatever in other OSR systems, and you're going to see that they're very, very powerful. All right, so taking a step back to character creation. So character creation, this game is going to rely a lot on d20s and d6s. There's going to be uses for other dice as well, but those are the 2 major ones. So when you create your character, you're going to have your standard standard abilities that you're familiar with. Strength, con and dex will be your physical attributes, and then wisdom, intelligence, and charisma are going to be your less physical, your force of personality or your intelligence or what have you abilities. And then what you're going to do is you're going to roll 66. If you roll any 1s, you're going to take those 1s, you're going to put them off to the side, you'll come back to them later. So then if you rolled a 6, and then you get to place those in the different stats that you want. So if you're going to be a barbarian, if you rolled any high numbers, you probably want to put that in strength and con. Not really worried so much about your wisdom or your intelligence as much as the others. But So, and then what it is a 6 is considered to be an attribute level of 3, and that's just basically the bonus that's going to be you're going to add to any kind of situation where strength comes into a factor. And 4s, so then here, and then a 4 or 5 is equal to a 2. A 2 or 3 is an attribute of 1. Now, so then you just get to put those in. Those are all bonuses. Those are all like you're better than average. So once again, unless you roll 1, you're going to have some pretty good scores, and you're going to have bonuses to most of your attributes. Now, anything that you rolled a 1 on, you have to re-roll those. And then if you roll a 4, 5, or 6, that is an attribute of those one. That becomes an attribute of 0. And then you can probably guess a 2 or a 3 becomes an attribute of -1. And then a 1 becomes an attribute of -2. So that's how you're going to determine like how you have negative attributes. But it's very possible, and many people rolled characters, they didn't roll a 1. And they just had a bunch of positive attributes. And like you think, oh, well, like that's really awesome. But they died just as easily as anybody else. So, and once again, my summation about this is going to be like a little bit different of a game that you're going to be used to playing as far as a D&D type game goes. All right, so now, like after you've done that, you'll choose your race. Then the races themselves, I should probably just take a couple moments and just like kind of give you an idea. So like here, let's look at the Goblin. So Goblin, born of a forbidden union between elves and orcs. This is the origin of the Goblin race. The unique mix of those two races gifted the goblins with neither the strength and determination of the orcs nor the beauty and longevity of the elves. Instead, the goblins were imbued with a short stature of 4 to 5 feet, slimy green skin, crude manner and tongue, and often sniveling cowardice. They are welcome almost nowhere and virtually shunned by all. They have a -1 to intelligence and wisdom, a +1 to strength, and hit points -1. So you're right there. So then they have the curse of the Unwanted. So basically, wherever they go, nobody wants to see them. Because the goblins are a natural sense of mistrust, they are hyper vigilant to dangers. Because of this, they get a +2 to their evade. And evade is, and I'll talk about this more in combat, but evade is kind of like your armor class. Wearing armor just helps you prevent damage. It doesn't add to your armor class. Magic and superstition. Goblins are superstitious and constantly worried about doing something that will bring them bad luck. They are also terrified of magic and those that practice it, and cannot be a magic-related class. They have a penalty of -2 on all difficulty checks versus magic effects. Despite their fear of magic, goblins will happily and greedily try to use magic items, potions, and other magical treasures. They have an aversion to light, so if they're in sunlight, they have a disadvantage when they make checks. I'll talk about that here in just a little bit. And then, so that's kind of like the downside of being a goblin. But there you have some little bonus, and it's a fun class to play. I had a lot of people play goblins because they had fun with them. They also, like, certain classes, like goblins as thieves, like they get bonuses and things like that. Humans, as you can probably guess, are going to just be standard, but you just get a +1 to any of the tributes that you decide to. Elves are going to be what you think elves are going to be. They're immune to paralysis. They're weaker and they have less hit points, but they're very dexterous and they have a high charisma. Dwarves, they're going to be buff. They're going to have more hit points, a bonus to their con attribute. Whenever they can always wield an axe or a hammer because they've been trained in those. They have dark vision, stuff like that. So the tropes are kind of the same that you've had. But I mean, once again, nobody has really a leg up over anybody else because this is a game where it is going to be very difficult and it's going to be very damaging. As I said, so evasion, I talked about that. Let's just talk about combat here. So, and this kind of goes to the core mechanism of the game. Anytime you're going to make a check, you're going to roll a 20-sided die and you're going to roll a 6-sided die. So if the 6-sided die is a 2, 3, 4, 5, just disregard it. Doesn't matter. If it's a 1 or a 6, a 1 will be a hindrance and a 6 will be a benefit. So then the person running the game, dungeon master, game master, whatever you want to call them, referee, like say you're trying to hit an orc, you're attacking an orc, and their evasion total is 12. That's what it's going to take to hit that orc. So you're going to roll your d20. You're using a melee weapon. You add your bonus for your strength, or obviously if you're using a ranged weapon, you add your bonus for your dex. And then what you'll do is if you exceed the number, the testing number, and this is for everything. I'm going to climb that wall. The difficulty to climb that wall is 15. You have to exceed that. I want to you know, I want to pick that lock. The difficulty level is 20. You've probably played games with difficulty levels for things. So you're just going to roll that d20, and you're going to have, if you succeed, great, you succeeded, but then you're going to check that 1 out of 6. If you fail, but you're also going to check that 1 out of 6. So the 6 is going to be a benefit. So just think of it this way, like the results for your things are like, if I succeed and I get a benefit, so you're not only did you succeed, but you really succeeded. And you could succeed and roll a 1, so yeah, you succeeded, but there's a little slight hindrance to what you did. And the same thing goes for failing. So if I fail and succeed, oh, you didn't do what you wanted, but, you know, like you get a little bonus. And then obviously, like the worst possible, not only did I fail, but I'm also getting a hindrance. So going through that, so let's just say, you know, Grom the Barbarian is trying to hit the Ogre. And we'll just use that as a standard. And this could be, and this applies to other things as, you know, like climbing walls and everything like that. But we'll just use a standard attack thing. So not only, so Grom hit and succeeded, he's going to roll his damage, but like Grom also, like, you know, you could rule like the GM is encouraged to like work with the players and come up with like a story that makes sense. You could say Grom succeeded, and the benefit was that like maybe the attack was so violent and so impressive that like the ogre's like orc buddies like don't join in on the fight. Like they go run and fight somebody else because you know, because they don't want to. They think Grom's too tough. You know, that would just be a bonus, right? A hindrance with the success could be like Grom, you know, just, yeah, you hit him, you slammed his axe into his shoulder, but like the axe is stuck in his body, and you're going to have to try to pull the axe out of him to be able to attack with it. So that would be like a success, but a hindrance. Now, a failure and a benefit could be like, oh, like, yeah, Grom, you didn't hit the ogre, but you did notice like how like maybe like the defenses, like you notice a chink in the armor when you attacked, or maybe like the attack hit the ogre's armor and like carved open a spot on the armor, and now the next attack he'll get an advantage when he makes that. And advantage and disadvantage are something you're going to use a lot in this game. So like advantages are when you're going to roll 2 20-sideds and you take the better. It's just 5th edition. If you roll 2 20, you take the best. A hindrance, you roll 2 20-sideds and you take the lowest. Pretty simple. All right, so then like a hindrance, like an attack and a hindrance would be like, you know, you not only did you miss, but the ground was wet, you slipped, you fell on the ground, and next round you're going to be getting up. You can still attack, but you'll attack with a hindrance. So, I mean, boom, boom, boom. Like, there you go. The 4, and then obviously if you just roll 2 3 4 5, it's just a success or a failure. Doesn't mean anything special. What this does, it adds a level of narrative, it adds a level of immersion, and it also involves the players in like trying to determine things like that. And the players and the referee can, or GM or whatever, can work together to come up with something that makes like the action that's going on in the system that much more dynamic and that much more interesting. All right, so a couple other key things I want to talk about. I mean, I'm going to talk about the book a little bit here and just a little more some of the stuff that's in it. A couple more key things is that I mentioned that there is no real leveling up. That's true, but you do have a luck score at the very when you create your character. You roll a d4 and you add 2 to that roll, and that's how many luck points your character has. Luck points allow you to spend a luck point to re-roll something. You have to accept the second roll, no matter what it is. But you know, you can re-roll. So if something really bad happens, you want to prevent yourself from dying, you can use a luck point. Luck points can also be used that if you've been knocked down to 0 and you're dead, you can spend your luck points 1 at a time. You can spend as many as you want rolling, and you might as well, because you're gonna be dead otherwise, rolling a 20-sided. If you roll a natural 20, your character like toughens up and manages to come back and wake up, and they're not dead. So, you know, that's like a way to like keep your character going. It happened once in one session that we played. One person, you know, they had to spend like all 3 of their luck points to do it, but they managed to do it. Some magic points will give you back luck points, and after every successful adventure that your character survives, you'll get a luck point back as well. And there's no, like, theoretically, there's no upward level to maximum luck points, because you're going to burn them up pretty quickly. You're not going to worry about ever running into a maximum luck, if you will. So that's an added thing that's going on. The other thing is, as I mentioned, that like magic items are kind of the key to improving your character. And the game suggests that each player at the end of an adventure, like, gets to roll on the magic table. Now you remember magic tables. I remember like when and that's quintessential OSR for me. The big giant magic table in the back when you rolled up the hoard of the treasure that the monsters had. And there is a very extensive like magic, and treasure thing in here where it talks about treasure and talks about how much gold. Like it just says monsters usually have the accumulated equivalent of 5 gold pieces per hit point, and if they're not in their lair, they'll only have about a quarter of that with them at any given time. But they tell you at the end of each adventure, allow the players to roll on the magic thing. Now you can come up with a reason, like you found it in the treasure hoard at the end. Maybe you come back and your adventure of some renown, and maybe a patron gifts this to you. But you will roll on this, like you'll get to have each player roll on this chart here that will allow them to roll, and then depending upon what they roll, like a tribute, they get a bonus to a tribute, magic items, potions, spell scrolls, things like that, and then they will then get to increase their attribute scores, possibly, or if they get magic items, there's big giant pages of like here's all the different magic armors you can get. And the players loved rolling on this. This was one of those things that everybody was like super excited about it, and like here is that's the magic, just like the generic magic items, like cool amulets and things like that. And here's the deal, like you might be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to give somebody this holy plate mail, +3 or something like that. That's too powerful. Well, here's the deal, combat is deadly. It's easy to hit people. And the thing is that you need to have armor on to soften the blows. So, like, you get hit and somebody rolls and like an orc hits somebody, they have a strength attribute of 2. They hit somebody with a sword, they roll d6. I did 6 points of damage with the +2. Now, if you have, say, chainmail armor on, which has an armor value of 3, that reduces that damage down to 3 hit points. So that's it. And if you had like armor value of 6 and that attack did 4 points of damage or 3 points, 6 points of damage, you'd still do 1. Like no matter what. I mean, you could be fighting some titanium wall that has like whatever, and like if you still hit, you still do a point of damage. Now, that probably won't be enough to win, but I mean, you're still going to get that point of damage. That's another thing in combat. Like there's damage resistance that the armor gives you, not an armor class that gives you. So the magic items are definitely things that people got excited about, but the thing is that like it didn't matter. It's like, oh yeah, you got this, you got a really cool +2 hand axe or something like that, but the troll picked you up and ripped off your head, so it doesn't matter now. So it's like, but that kind of leads into the whole thing of how the whole process of the game and what this game is for. So I mean, this game could be anything to anybody. I mean, as far as it, like for me, like I said, I took it to my local game store and I just ran like quick sessions with people. Like I like downloaded those maps, just threw monsters in there. Oh, I should mention it's like 20 or so pages of like there's a big giant monster chapter in here, and let's see, it goes from page 49 to 70 with different monsters, and they're all the classics, right? The basilisks, wights, demons, dragons, ghouls, lycanthropes, all the classic old school monsters that you're familiar with. They give you like here's like the ogre. It tells you like I'll try to show that to you. It gives you the quick little stat block there of like how many hit points they have, their evade score, all those things, and then tells you how they would their bonus, how much damage they do, things like that, and it just and the monsters are there, I think, for like people just to be able to have a quick reference. But I think when I played it, I just created this stuff up on the fly. But that's just the way I DM. I mostly create most of my stuff up on the fly and just tell the story as I go. So now, all that being said and done, so what is the Blackest of Deaths for? My opinion, and this can be anything, I can't see running a big long campaign with this, but which is fine. I'm involved in a big long campaign. It's been going on for about 2 years. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's a blast. It's a great story. But sometimes I just want to play a game that's quick and it's dirty and it's fun. And you don't have to worry so much about the storyline. You don't have to worry so much about like the long arching goals of all the characters in that particular thing. What I need to worry about is having fun, figuring out what my character needs to do, and having a blast. Just reveling in like classic, go into the dungeon, find the things that are in there, beat them up, and take their money. And there's something really, really awesome about that, and there's something that I really, really enjoy about that. It does harken back to when I played D&D when I was a kid, and that's what we played it for. It was one of those things where we didn't plan ahead for 2 weeks. Like, oh, when's the next session? Oh, the next session will be, everybody takes out their phones, figures out a calendar. Next session will be the 27th of April, and we'll meet at this time, and we're going to play for this, that, and the other. For me, it was like, when I was in school, it was like, you'd be hanging out with your friends, and you'd be saying, like, you're getting done, and it's like, why don't we play D&D today after school? And everybody like, yeah, let's play D&D. and so like we'd go to one of our friends' houses, and as soon as we got out of school, and like we just played D&D for 2-3 hours. Somebody got out an old TSR module that they had. Everybody took out their battered up, constantly erased and redrawn on character sheets, and we went and somebody ran the adventure, and we just went in there, and everybody just rolled a bunch of D20s and had a great time. And this is that feel. This is what that goes back to. And for people that live through that version of D&D, and they're looking for a really quick and fun rule set that'll allow them to do that. This is perfect. I mean, other rule sets say that they're trying to make like a quick and dirty, and I'm not saying that as a negative at all. This is a fantastic book. It is just a really well written, really condensed set of rules to have a lot of fun quickly and enjoyably between you and the players at the table. And it is like an homage, to the days of Gygax and Arneson in a lot of ways. So if you are a person that you're looking, like you remember those days, like I said, and you want to go back to those days, this is something that I would strongly suggest you check out. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Now, if after listening to me talk for like the last half hour about it, and you're relatively new to the RPG scene, and you aren't an old man like me, and you want to try something new, if you want to try to take a glimpse into what D&D used to be like for us back in like when it first came out, when it first was, because I started playing D&D 40 years ago. And if you want to take a glimpse into that world in like the mid to late 70s, the world of Stranger Things, the show, and want to see like the kind of D&D we played back then, this would be an excellent way for you to get the feel of that, but also bridge the gap to more refined and I'll flat out say a better way of playing D&D now than was back in the day. I mean, like the rule sets that we have now, even like the OSR rule sets that I mentioned earlier, are much better. I mean, they got rid of a lot of the things that just were incomprehensible to us. Being third and fourth graders playing Dungeons and Dragons in our basements. But this is a good way to grab that feel once again. And have a blast playing it on a Saturday afternoon when you got a couple hours to kill. Frankly, I love playing this with my two kids. This is what we play now, and they have so much fun playing it this way, if you will. But anyway, there you go. That is the Blackest of Deaths. If you have any questions about this or comments about role playing in general, by all means. state them. Tell me what you think. Tell me some stories of if you're a relatively new role-playing RPG player, and like if you have any questions about OSR, or you want to tell me about how your campaigns are going, or what you love in D&D, please share that with me. If you are also like an old grognard like me, and you wanna reminisce a little bit about the old school days, by all means, post that as well. Until next time, I am the Undead Viking. This was the Blackest of Deaths. Remember, be the best version of you that you possibly can be, and inspire others to greatness so that they can inspire the greatness in you as well. I guarantee you that the more love that you give out to the universe, the more love that universe is going to give right back. You are awesome. I'm the Undead Viking. I'll see you next time.